Indeed we have. It's nice to be able to hear Lou speaking again. And as you can see, we've managed to find in the thickest of thick Tingana. So Tingana is sitting there. You can see with his tick-ridden and bitten ears that it's him. He's an older cat, so the ears have got a few little war wounds. But he has found himself in the thickest bush possible. He's right actually next to one of the main roads, and if you had to drive past here, there is no ways that you would see him. In fact, VM and I took us a few minutes to actually get a proper visual and to notice that he was here. So he's tucked himself away, and I'm quite surprised that he's lying here. He's, like I say, on one of the main roads, so it's going to be a busy day for him. He's going to have lots of traffic going up and down. So I was hoping that he would get up and start moving and try and get himself into a quieter area for a rest, but he's looking magnificent. His body condition is great. He's looking really, really good, and I haven't seen him for a while. It's been about 2-3 weeks since I last saw him, but he looks like he's had a decent meal at some point, so his belly is not gaunt in any way, and you can see the structure of his back and his hip area. Everything is in really, really good condition. His coat looks magnificent at the moment as well. There's no ticks or any sort of parasites that I can see, so he's looking really, really great. And you can see he's just kind of facing away from us at the moment. There is a breeze that's blowing and it's coming towards us from his direction, so if he sits like that, any sort of wind that's coming from south of him is blowing into his face, so he'll be able to detect if there's any potential prey animals, or if there's any threat that's coming just from the wind direction, and that's maybe why he's faced that way. Also, there was a car that came from the southern side just now, and he kind of turned over to have a look and see what was coming up the road. But his camouflage is absolutely incredible. Given that he's such a big animal, you would think that this leopard would be easy to spot, but we are parked probably no more than 5 meters from him, and we're still getting this broken kind of outline of him. If you had to park 20 meters away, there's no ways you would see even a spot. He would just disappear completely. So his camouflage really works in his favor. And I wonder where he came from, because we drove this area and there weren't really any signs of his tracks. He must have come from Arathusa side. We're right up against the Arathusa cut line with Djuma, and so he must have been lurking around here. I wonder if he didn't go and pay a visit to Shadow and the cubs and go and see what's going on with her. But he seems to be in full relaxation mode. There's not been too much activity, and I can actually see it's difficult from this angle that we're at now, but from where I'm sitting you can see his head is just starting to droop slightly, so I wouldn't be surprised he's going to lie down properly. He's kind of moving his head a little bit every now and then, and almost looks as though he's about to flop down like the lions do, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes flat now and has a good nap. And this is the nice thing about this time of the year with the grass and the growth of the grass and the vegetation becoming so dense, is that he can sit right here and animals will come so close without him even being seen. So he's in a perfect place to stalk if anything came through, and that's why he's probably sitting here, as he knows that he's very well concealed in this. And so should any potential prey animal come past, he's in prime position to sight. So for Tato, I missed your question, unfortunately. The comms are still a little bit breaky, but I don't know if Lou can maybe repeat it for me. So you would like to know whether the leopard mates with the same female over the years. Well, yes, it can happen. Tingana, I've seen mating with a number of different females multiple times. So I've seen this particular male mate with Shadow, I can't even remember how many times now, easily 20 times over the last few years. He mated with Sulahesh multiple times. He's mated with Karula multiple times. So as long as he's dominant in this area and that female comes into an estrus cycle, he'll mate with her. So you'll find with Karula now, if she starts to push the cubs away in the next few months and he's still dominant, then very likely he will then mate with her again. And we think that he is the father of those cubs. and I would imagine that if she does come into heat, he's definitely going to be one of the first males that covers her and tries to mate with her. So they will mate with the same female for years, as long as they're dominant. As soon as they lose their dominance, then they no longer will mate with that female, because they generally have been pushed out by a stronger male who will get to that female first. And even if he tries to mate with the female and there's a bigger, stronger male, he might get ousted from that mating privilege. But this particular male has mated many, many times with all the females that we see. So he's mated with Tundi many times. He's mated with Karula, Shadow, Salahesh, Moya. When Kotile was still alive, he's mated with her. So a number of different females that he's encompassed in his territory. But right now, he seems like he's not interested in anything. He's now tucked his head up, and it looks as though he is fast asleep. And it's pretty incredible that we're really quite close to him, and he's completely not fazed by us. He's hardly turning over to even look at us. Like I say, we're quite close to him, and he's not really stressed about it at all. It's pretty incredible. What is also nice is the size difference between him and the cubs is quite amazing, because I haven't seen him for quite a while, and we've been spending so much time with Karula's cubs, and you kind of get used to their sizes being, the two females, Karula and Shongile, and then Hosana. He's big for his age, but you just realize how much more he's got to grow when you see a big male leopard like this. He is absolutely massive. He's got this huge neck and shoulder area, and it really makes me think that Hosana's got a long way to go before he's a big boy like these guys. But isn't that coat magnificent? I was saying earlier, his coat is in great condition. You can see it's all clean, and he looks well groomed this morning, so maybe he had a good grooming session before he decided to lie down. So, Trav, you want to know, is there anything that I can compare the feel of his coat to? Well, Trav, I've never actually touched this particular leopard, so I wouldn't know, but just in general with big cats, their fur is a lot harder than what you think it is. It's not soft like a domestic cat. It almost has a very bristly feel to it. So probably I would say almost like one of those sponges you use to wash dishes, those harder sponges. It's almost got that feel to it. It's very bristly and hard to touch, like a dog that spent a lot of time out in the dust and is rolled around. Their coat becomes a little bit harder and like I say, more bristly, and that's basically what their coat feels like. It's much the same as lions as well. It's not that soft velvety fur that you would think it would be when you see it from here. And he does look particularly good today. You would think that coat would be nice and soft, but it's not. It's, at the end of the day, these animals are not like domestic animals that are being brushed and groomed and they're being washed. They ultimately are out in the rain and the dirt, and so they get a lot of dust on their coat, and that makes the hair get quite hard, and also moving through thickets and thorn areas, so they can't have a very long, soft coat, because otherwise all that hair is just going to get caught up everywhere and pulled out. So the shorter, tougher fur is much better. Alright, so while we sit with Tingana and see if he's maybe going to wake up for us and make a move, let's go back to James, who I think has found us a new hyena den. We have, and you can see he's just giving us a little look through the foliage there. So he's just woken up a little bit and is starting to groom now. Hopefully that will mean that he is going to start thinking about waking up. You can see he's itching, and where he's scratching at the moment is actually a big concentration of ticks. So it's right behind his shoulder blades. Difficult to see now that he's laid down, but on his shoulder blades there, where he can't reach with his tongue, he's got a grouping of ticks that have deposited themselves in amongst that fur, and that's why he's itching so much and trying to use his claws to scratch. And you can see one or two of the ticks there, those big bulging grey balls. Those ticks are penetrated in, and those are massive. If you think about the size of a spot on a leopard and you see the size of those ticks there, you can imagine how big they are, and they are absolutely saturated to the brim with blood. So they're having a good feed. And like I say, it's because he actually can't get to that area. So the rest of his coat is in great condition, and there's no ticks anywhere where he can actually get his tongue and get the hooked muscle to be able to hook into those ticks and then pull them out. Also with his claws he can scratch them out, and unfortunately he just can't reach between his shoulder blades. So it's quite common to see that. And at the moment, the summer months, the ticks are incredible. They are everywhere at the moment, and so for him, having ticks between the shoulder blades is just part of summer living. So Holly, yes, leopards will take very long to groom themselves, much like domestic cats. It's a similar sort of thing. They try and keep themselves as clean as possible. So often what you'll find is if this leopard has moved around during the early hours of this morning and has now decided this is where he wants to sleep, he'll then lie down and he'll start the grooming process, and he'll pretty much groom his back legs, along his body, front legs, and try and get rid of all the parasites he's picked up while he's been walking around. Also, he tries to get rid of all the loose fur that's been disrupted while he's been walking, and just generally tries to get that coat into a good condition. You'll find then that they'll sleep, and once they decide it's time to wake up, they'll go through that whole grooming process again, much like a domestic cat would do. It's the same, a similar kind of thing. And the reason why they do it when they wake up again is because while they've been lying, as I was saying to you, lots of ticks in the grass at the moment, and there'll be fleas and all kinds of things, and they will have been able to crawl onto him while he's been sleeping. And so when he wakes up, he just gets rid of all of those parasites that haven't latched on yet, and keeps that coat in good condition in preparation for when he starts to walk again and does his territorial patrols or hunting or anything like that. So yes, they do groom a lot, and they have to, particularly in the summer months with all these parasites around. If they don't groom, they're going to get into a situation where they're going to end up with far too many parasites, and they're going to then potentially be ill. Too many tick bites can cause a staphylococcus infection in humans, and I'd imagine it would be very similar in animals, that eventually the amount of poison being flushed through, or bacteria flushed through the tick's mouth parts into a leopard, if there was too many of them, would definitely cause him to get quite ill. And the problem with something like a leopard is if it does get ill from, let's say, too many ticks on it, then it starts to get weaker, and when it gets weaker, it then becomes really difficult for it to hunt. So a leopard can't afford to get into that condition, and that's why they groom themselves so much. Now it sounds like there is a car that's coming along, so I wonder if he's not going to wake up again. So, and it was yellow. You would like to know how male leopards establish territory and breeding rights. Well, and what will happen is when this young male leaves his mom, he then becomes nomadic, and he'll then move around and become this nomadic male for a few years until he gets bulky and strong. Once he's bulky and strong, he will then start looking for an area where he sees an older male, or perhaps there's no male that's actively patrolling that area, and he'll then start to scent mark. And what he does is he scent marks and he vocalizes in a way to tell other leopards that this is my area now, this is where I'm deciding to set up and where I'm going to make my home. And so what he's trying to do is use a chemical and an audio display so that he actually doesn't have to fight, because that's a last resort for them. They don't want to fight with one another because they can risk serious injury, so they would rather call and leave these chemical scents. And what they do is they then go around and they push as far as they can until they meet resistance from another male that is of similar size and age, and that will be able to keep them at bay. And that's how the territory is then set up. And then with mating, you'll find a situation with mating that there will be females that will be within his territory, and generally males will have slightly larger territories than females, and so they will try and encompass as many females as possible. And you'll find that even some females will travel out of their territory into a neighboring male's territory just to be able to mate with them. And so that's how they get their mating rights. And generally then what will happen is once the mating commences, the female and the male mating make a lot of noise, and if there's any other males in that area, they will hear that and they'll come in, and then there'll be this territorial dispute, and it will then end up with the case of the strongest, fittest male will take over, and he'll be the one that will mate and is normally the successful mate for that female. Now, he's gotten a little bit upset because a car came barreling down the road. Like I say, we're on a main road, and I think it disturbed him a little bit, so that's why he's got his head up and he's looking over his shoulder now. So what we're going to do is just sit quietly and not make too much noise. So Rachel, you're asking about these ticks, and you want to know if these are the pepper ticks that have been plaguing Steph and myself and Jamie and James and Brent, who've been on the bushwalks, and whether or not that's them and that they've latched on and now become huge. Well, it is basically that. Pepper ticks are a certain species of ticks, and it's the larval phase of the tick. So it's when it's first developed, and then from there it will start to grow and get bigger. And depending on the species, it will either go through a 1-stage, 2-stage, or 3-stage life cycle. If it's a 3-stage life cycle, like these bond ticks that we see on this leopard, then it will have already dropped off another host twice before getting onto Tingana. So they will already be quite big when they get onto him, and then they're going to feed massively and swell out. And now, if you take that tick off for a while, you'll find that... Sorry guys, just got to get through this little monkey orange thicket. And isn't that spectacular? A bit of patience has paid off for us. He's now going to amble down the road. So yeah, I mean, these bond ticks are quite big already when they latch onto him. Isn't that spectacular? Oh, serious itch on that dewlap. And like I was saying, you can see he's in great condition, and his belly is swinging. That is my favorite sound. I just love it. So what he's doing there, and that goes back to our territorial discussion, is that he's voicing that this is my area, this is where I'm dominant, and don't come anywhere near here if you're another male. And he might even be just doing that to us, to show us that this is his territory, and that he's saying, this is my area, you know, I've been sleeping, but this is me calling and making a show for you. And you'll see that he'll probably go and he'll mark his territory as we go. So any sort of landmark that we come across, like a tree that's overhanging the road, you'll find he'll go up there and he'll push his face into the tree and use his scent glands to mark there, and then lift his tail and spray this urine. But isn't that the most beautiful sight? This large cat just ambling down the road in front of us without a care in the world. So when he starts to vocalize like that, it means that he's not in a full-on hunt. It's not to say that he won't hunt. If something came across the road, then he could potentially start stalking. But generally, it's a situation where he's not looking to hunt at all. He's just doing a territorial patrol. Sorry, I must apologize. We're driving on a road that's got a very corrugated effect to it. So because it's a main road, there's a lot of delivery trucks that drive on here, and so they cause the road to get these little bumps. And so when we're driving, it causes the camera to bounce a little bit, unfortunately. So I'm trying to avoid them as best I can. Is that a bit better, Vim? There we go. So it looks like he's going to potentially cross into Djuma. Let's have a look. But you see there's that tree that's on the edge of the road. So he's going to go up to it. He's rubbing his face a little bit, lifts the tail, and sprays. Now, when we go past that, we are going to get the most incredible smell that's going to come. It's going to smell like that buttery popcorn that you get when you go to the movies, and it's really quite pleasant. You wouldn't think the urine of a cat would be very nice, but with leopards it smells like buttery popcorn, and is really quite something. And so you can often, when you're tracking them, know how fresh their scent or how fresh the tracks are when you come across a scent marking, and if you can still smell that popcorny smell, then you know it's been fairly recent. So Cody, leopards, I suppose in a way they do compete with other predators. They're not in direct competition in that they'll both be hunting the exact same animal at the same time. It has happened, but they are in competition for food and for safety and for safe havens for their cubs. And so that's why there's a lot of sort of fighting in amongst them. So if, let's say, a lion came out now, that lion would try and chase this leopard. And the reason why is not because it's hunting it for food, is that it knows that this male leopard could potentially be very dangerous to the offspring of that lion. So it knows that the male leopard is more than capable of killing its offspring. Also, it's going to be eating meat from this area that lion could potentially use. And so in that regard, yes, they compete with one another, but they're not direct competitors like, let's say, one pride of lions and another pride of lions, or another male leopard to this male. They're not competing for mating rights and territory, but they are competing for food items and then just for safety of their cubs. So there's he's putting his head in the bush, rubbing that gland on his face, and spraying again. Spectacular. Absolutely amazing. He is such a big boy. He's got the most dopey face in the world. He always looks like he's half asleep, but he is absolutely spectacular. So there are some of the commercial vehicles that are joining us. It's in an area where there's a few commercial cars, so we're going to let them come and have a little look quickly, and while we do that, we're going to go back to James and see what update he's got for us. So we are back and up and running and able to hear what's going on again. And Tingana is just cut off now. He was walking straight down the road, and now he's just gone into this little thicket. So I'm just trying to find him again. But he shouldn't have gone too far. Maybe he's gone to go and find himself a nice place to lie down again like he did just now. It's quite dense in here, so it's the perfect place for a leopard to get in and hide, exactly like what he was doing earlier. So I was just trying to sneak in here just to see, but I don't see any sign of him. Vim, you see anything? Is he on the other side of that marula? Okay. Sorry, I just got to try and back up a little bit to try to see if we can get through here. So VM's just saying that he was on the other side of this marula. Now, it's just a bit dense in here, and there's lots of fallen over trees that we've got to be a bit careful of. We're also in an area where there's a few types of trees called zebra woods. Now, zebra wood is a very dense, in fact, it's the densest wood we get out here, and they go through your tires like a hot knife through butter. So you have to be a bit careful when the zebra woods are around. Sorry, VM, just be careful on the left there. I think there he is. I'm just trying to see. I thought I saw him around the bush there. So I'm just going to have to try and get through. Sorry, VM. We've just got a big stump here that... So VM and I are trying to dodge trees in every direction here. We'll try and get through. I thought I saw him walking down towards us here, so I'm just trying to get us through this little thicket. It's the nice thing about having Wendy is she's very short, and so very easy to get her through these small little hard to reach places. When you drive the big Land Cruisers, it's a lot more difficult. So we're just going to try and sneak in here, and then we should be able to find him. So I think he's coming back towards the road by the looks of it, which is typical of him. Yeah, I can hear you now, Lou, but it's very broken. Alright, so we're going to go back to James just so we can try and figure out our comms at this stage and see if we can find Tingana again and relocate on Tingana. He's tucked himself into a thicket where it's almost not possible to see him anymore. So he's just in that grass there. You can see it's just a blur of spots in amongst the green. So unfortunately he's found himself a new place to lie down and is very happy in that thicket now. And like I say, it is impossible to see him. 3 vehicles drove past him without seeing him at all, and luckily VM with his eagle eyes on the back managed to see this cat and spot it for us. And you can see he's gone fast asleep again. So I think in all likelihood, because of the comms issues that we're having and the fact that this cat has gone completely to sleep and is in a very difficult place to see him, I think we're going to leave him there and carry on. But it was really great to catch up with Tingana this morning. It was nice to have him coming out and sawing for us. It was quite special. So I think that's where we're going to leave him and let him have some peace and quiet. And look at that, you can see it is